Willie MacKinnon was born in 1935 to Willie and Cassie MacKinnon. His sister Teresa Walsack and brother Spoik are present this evening. Later this evening, Spoik and Teresa's late husband, William Bucky Walsack, will be inducted as athletes. Dan Willie also has two brothers, D.A. and John, both deceased. Dan Willie is married to his wife Nancy, and they have 5 children who are all present. And I won't say anything bad about any of them. I really want to. But there's Norma, Janet, David, Blair, and Dougie. And 3 of Dan Willie's grandchildren are also here this evening, Luke, Heather, and Emma. So welcome, everybody. Like most other kids his age, Dan Willie learned how to play sports in his neighborhood. From the age of 13 to 17, Dan Willie played softball, baseball at the Mount Carmel school grounds. He also played hockey and rugby with the Mount Carmel teams. Dan Willie played midget baseball for Mount Carmel under Gervais Fortune. I'd like to point out to my good Tim Hortons buddies, Reverend Duncan Roach and Roger Gio, just how prominent the Catholic Church was in the development of this fine young man. You'll be hearing Mount Carmel mentioned many times throughout this ceremony. The church was so involved that these guys even got their own pope. More on that later, Ronnie. Dan Willie's first love was softball, and he developed into one of the finest softball pitchers ever developed locally. At that time, softball was very popular, with teams in every corner of the island. And as a 16 and 17-year-old, Dan Willie's skills as pitcher were in great demand. He was the ace chucker for the Cardinals and the Stags in the town league. I'm going to tell you an interesting story, because as Dan Willie's career evolved, they suffered a disappointing loss in the town finals to the Barber Poles. Shortly after that game, 5 well-known and respected gentlemen of the community descended upon Dan Willie's home with a very complex proposal. Realizing how good Dan Willie was, and coupled with the fact that their star pitcher suffered an injury, the group inquired into whether Dan Willie would play on their team in the Cape Breton Championships as a ringer. Now, for those who don't know what a ringer is, it is an ineligible player who plays on a team under an assumed name, and it is illegal. Apparently, Sandy McDonald was injured at work early in the season and had not been competing. Therefore, all they had to do was convince Dan Willie to become Sandy. But Dan Willie, with his great Catholic upbringing, was very hesitant. But after some coaxing, Dan Willie finally relented and became Sandy McDonald for a long playoff run, leading the team to playoff victories over outstanding Sydney Mines and Whitney Pierce squads, before eventually losing the provincial championship in Halifax. Dan Willie pitched the first game win in that series in Cape Breton, but the team couldn't hold on in Halifax, with the Halifax team winning in 2 games. All in all, it was a pretty good effort for a group of guys led by a young ringer. Now, at the time, Dan Willie was attending Savre College, and life threw a great big curveball at Dan Willie, as several students at Savre College also played on the peer team. So Dan Willie used his deft touch to dodge a bullet at school, answering to Sandy or Dan Willie whenever the occasion called for it. My grandfather, who was a character in himself, Big Archie McKinnon, gave Dan Willie his nickname. I just can imagine this now. As a high school student, and even while at Xavier College, Dan Willie served on the altar as an altar boy at Mount Carmel. So Big Archie used to call him Pope. An interesting nickname for a guy who wasn't so saintly, as it turns out. Dan Willie was an exceptional athlete. All joking aside, he was a member of 3 Maritime Championship teams with the Waterford Comets, Sydney Statesmen, and Scotchtown Raiders. That's all softball. That became fastball after a while. He also pitched for McPhee's Motors in Truro while attending Teachers College. Behind Dan Willie's fine pitching, Forbes Motors defeated the famed Brookfield Elks for the town championship. The Brookfield Ups are probably the greatest franchise in softball in Nova Scotia history. Dan Willie also pitched for the Glace Bay Boys under the legendary Sam Wareham. When Dan Willie was in high school, he played both softball and baseball at the same time. He pitched for several local softball teams, but also played first base for the local junior baseball team, coached by Fox Chesson, who is being honored here this evening. In 1959, Dan Willie was coaxed back to baseball to fortify the senior Giants, who had lost a squeaker the season before to Sydney Mines in a nail-biting 10-game series. Sydney Mines went on to win the Nova Scotia title, and they lost in the Maritimes. And I know you're thinking, who plays a 10-game series? It's not mathematically possible. But what it was a best-of-9 series. It was tied. The 9th game was played in Waterford, and because there was no lights, it was called off for darkness. So they played a 10th game. Now just get this. They played the 10th game, and they played it in Sydney Mines. Go figure. I don't know who was negotiating on that one. But anyhow, the Giants lost the final game. But incidentally, in that series, a remarkable achievement. Willie MacKinnon won 3 games of his team's 4 in that series. So anyhow, Dan Willie agreed to come to the team the next season as the first baseman to anchor the $1 million infield of Art Hot Dog McLean, Ray Bozo Steele, another nice nickname, Mike Bruds, Roberts, and Carl, I don't know your nickname, and Carl Marsh. The team went on to win the Cape Breton Nova Scotia Maritime titles. The Maritime title was won at our local field as New Waterford defeated a tough Woodstock, New Brunswick squad in 15 innings before 5,000 fans. That's true. I was there. 5,000 fans. I was fortunate, as I was 10 years old, watching our boys this summer bring home the first Maritime Senior Baseball Championship to Cape Breton. The addition of Dan Willie to this already strong team was a brilliant decision, as he led the team in batting, hitting at a .418 clip. Now, if you can hit 400, you're quite a ball player. And he got many key hits during a tremendous playoff run. Not bad for a guy who hadn't played baseball for 5 or 6 years. Dan Willie was also a member of the 1965 Giants, who won the Maritime Senior title, defeating Dartmouth Indians for the provincial crown and the Moncton Cubs for the Maritime. When you add it all up, Dan Willie was a member of 5 Maritime, 5 Nova Scotia championship teams in softball and baseball. That's a total of 10. Very impressive indeed. He will go down as one of the greatest softball pitchers in the town's history. But I will remember him as one of the best pure hitters I've ever seen locally. A powerful line drive hitter with a quick compact swing, Dan Willie was one of the most feared hitters in the Maritimes. It's with great pleasure that I ask Dan Willie MacKinnon to come forward to accept the plaque which signifies his induction into the Waterford and District Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Dan Willie.
I'm not used to be standing in front of a crowd, so I'll do the best I can. I would like to express my thanks to the members of the New Waterford and District Sports Heritage Hall of Fame Committee.
Give some rum, Dougie.
And they need it.
Not into the mic.
Oh, I gotta try and read this. For selecting me for this honor. I would also like to congratulate the other athletes being honored here tonight. With the passing of Mike Kennedy several weeks ago, it got me to thinking about the importance of the volunteer coaches in our community. So in deciding what to speak about, I realized it was time to thank all the coaches who made it possible for me to be standing here tonight. I'm going back into the late 1940s, and I think all I will do, I'm going to cut this short, is just name those people. first one was Bernie Mullins, older brother of Mooney. Jervy Fortune, Fox Chesson, Lefty McNeil, George Lewis, Henry McKinnon, Bull Marsh, Danny Longfee, Cecil Hamilton, Sam Wareham, Bernie McKinnon, Kenny Timmons, Mario Pino, Crummy Williamson, Lionel Petrie, and last but not least, Marshall DeVoe, who coached me into retirement in that fine game of law ball. Let me say a few words about softball. A game I enjoyed playing for 25 to 30 years. A game in which the ball was bigger and just as hard as a baseball, where the mound was 40 feet, 8.5 inches, not 60 feet, 6 inches from home plate. The catcher and first baseman were the only players allowed to wear a glove. The ball is thrown underhand and overhand, and where the third baseman really played the hot corner, just 60 feet, not 90 feet from home plate, and he was barehanded. Softball was a very popular sport in our town as far back as I researched, was in the late 20s and 30s. And in my opinion, was played by more people in the summer than any other sport. There was a team in almost every neighborhood, and during World War II, there was a team of soldiers from Fort Lingan playing in the Waterford League. The game of softball has changed over the years. For example, the introduction of fastball pitching in the late 60s. Jimmy McKenzie, Steve Frazier, and Cliff Surratt came into the scene and became three of the best pitchers in the Maritimes. Classification changes came about, and all players start wearing gloves, etc. It may be interesting for someone to do research on the history of softball in New Waterford. In closing, I look over the crowd this evening and I see a number of coaches, former coaches and present coaches. I want you to know there are many people like me who just did not get around to thanking you while we were having fun. I am also quite sure that my former coaches are looking down on us tonight and saying to each other, things are going great in New Waterford this evening. One of our inductees is now speaking about us, and he also cheers for two of the greatest teams in sport, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Toronto Blue Jays. Isn't that right, Gabe? Thank you.
Very good, Gary.